So the first thing we're going to do is to edge our album covers. And to do that, take your roll of tape, and I'm just ripping off a piece that's just the length of the spine, just a bit longer, and I'm just folding it over, sticking it half on, half off, folding it over the top edge, pressing it down on the other side, and then let's get the long scissors, just snipping the ends off. Whoops. And I'm going to do that top and bottom of the spine piece, just on those short edges. So do that with yours. So you get a nice neat edge over those chipboard ends. And the tape is beautiful if you want to cover it with treasure gold or gilding wax. And then we're going to do the same with the covers. So we're going to do the two short sides and then the one outer long side. And to do that, just take your tape. If you press hard with your thumb, you can't see, if you press hard with your thumb on the end, it will rip the tape, or you can just cut it off. So do one edge, then the opposite edge, and if you just press down with your thumb, it will rip off. And then for the long side, take a piece of tape that's just slightly longer, rip it off, hold your board up and stick the tape half on, half off that edge. So you're just pressing it down onto the very edge of the board, and then before you stick the ends down, trim the tape to fit, and then just slightly cut the corners at an angle, and that way you won't have ends showing when you stick your paper down. The tape will stay nice and flat and not curl up, so you get a really neat corner. And if you've got any little gaps showing, sometimes you do have a gap, you can either touch it up with a black pen, so just like that, or you can take a piece of tape and position it right up so the edge is right by the corner, and then you just press it down and round and down on the other side, and that gives you a really nice neatly covered corner. So either of those will work, and then you do the same with the other piece. So I'm going to go half on, half off on the two short edges, fold over and round, so those ends can be straight, and then do the same on the opposite side. Fold over like that, and then the long side, take your piece of tape slightly longer, lift up your board, press it onto the very edge of the chipboard, press it down, trim it to fit, snip your corners off like that, and then press it down on both sides, and then you have a really neat finished edged cover ready to assemble. To assemble, you take a piece of tape that is longer, an inch longer either end than your spine, so just rip it off, stick it half on, half off one long edge of your spine, flip it over, take your album cover, lay it on the top, lining up your top and bottom edges. I like to twist mine like this, so I'm feeling the side edges to make sure that they're level, and then I'm going to flip right over and press down, but only press down on the board, not the tape. And then when you open it out, you have a nice double gap, and you bring those little ends in and over, and then you cover that with another piece of tape that is about 1/4 of an inch short of the ends. Press down and fold over, and then flip back over, take another piece of tape that is slightly longer, an inch longer either end, roughly. Stick it down, flip over, lay your other cover, the undecorated edge, on the top, lift up, holding the edges together, and flip either towards you or away from you. Press down on the board, not the tape ends, open out, bring your ends up and over, and cover. And that, and then bring that in, is your album cover. So to add the spine mount, this is the large piece that you've put tape all the way around the edges. You want to remove the backing off that, and at the same time you want to put strips of tape either side of the gutter, which is the gap between your spine cover and your spine itself. And these pieces of tape need to start about 1/2 inch from the top and bottom edges of the spine and the cover, and you do that along both edges. Like that. And then let's take the backing off, which I can't do. Where's my pokey tool? So take the backings off both pieces. I'll just get a pin to do it. Hopefully that'll work. Oh my goodness. This is really sticky tape. And let's do the same on here. Oh, this is not so sticky. Right. And then you're going to position this over your spine and evenly between the top and bottom edge. So the album cover's at 8 1/4 and the spine mount is 8 inches. So you'll have an 1/8 of an inch showing of the album cover showing top and bottom. So place it down and then really press it down, top and bottom, and then up and down over your spine mount, the gaps between your covers and your spine, and then just lift up very gently, and you'll see that the card fits into the album, the gap between the cover and the spine. And then if you just ease it and wiggle it just gently between your hands like that, your album cover will just fall into place. And we're going to assemble the layered spine mounts to put our pages on. So you should have cut out 5 pieces. I've got and numbered them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the narrowest piece. Move these out of the way, and you're going to need your tacky glue for this. So the first thing to do is to take piece number 2, so piece number 1 down on your surface, take piece number 2, fold the sides back, your sticky up sections that the pages are going to sit on, and put your tacky glue. It's a really good idea to stand your glue upside down while you're working in its cap so that when you want to use it, it's ready to use. So you don't need tons and tons, just a little bit of glue like that. And I like to, where's my lid? Let's just get my lid. Stand it in there and then it'll be ready. I like to smooth the glue out so that it covers the whole of the surface, and then you can work it right to the very edge of the piece. And then this piece sits centrally between the top and the bottom and between the side edges. Now, you might want to prep your pieces and draw pencil lines before you start, or you might, so that you've got them central, or you might be just happy to eyeball it. I'm just eyeballing where mine are going to go. So I've stuck that in. I've tried to keep those side edges as straight as possible along in between the side edges of the base piece. And then press down and then fold your tabs over and just run your fingers down that folded edge just to make sure that that piece is stuck to the back piece. And then lay those side tabs flat. Take your next piece, piece number 3, fold in those side tabs, and again, if you want to draw a pencil line as a guide, then do. This piece is going to sit centrally on that one and centrally between the top and bottom. And then take the glue, and again, not too much. The more glue you add, the less tack it has, and of course it will warp the paper as well, or the card. Smooth it out right to the edge, and then centre it first and then press it down. All the way over like that. Lift in your side edges and just press down. Lift that tab up and press down. Then take piece number 4. Glue the centre. Now this piece is easier because it is the same length as piece number 1. Smooth it down. Just work the glue all the way down. And this one's going to sit centrally again, and you line up top and bottom edges as you go. Lift up the side edges just to make sure that you're centred. And when you're happy with where that piece is sitting, press the middle down. So you're building up that layered spine mount. And then the last piece is really narrow, and you just put glue along that centre piece. Smooth it down. And then centre it over piece number 4, and when you're happy with where it's sitting, just move mine a little bit, and your top and bottom edges are level, press it down. So that is the spine mount. Now the key with this album is we're going to put the pages onto this, so that's the next step. But the whole section is decorated before it's put into the album, because you'll see in the album here, there is actually, let's just pop that on there, paper on here. And that goes on, and then the finished page section, the whole assembly, goes on over the paper, but we don't cut the paper out until partway through the instructions. So don't add your pages and spine mount into the album until you get to the end of decorating them. So now we're ready to add the pages. So I'm just lifting up those spine mounts, and then before we do anything else, you just want to angle cut all of the corners, just a little snip. Shall I come in a bit closer? Oh, I don't know what I've done. That's it. So I'm just cutting the corners off each one of those right-angled edges or ends. And you do that just to hide those corners so that when you've got a page on, you can't see 2 layers of card under the paper as you look down at the album. So just cut them just down to the crease and then turn around and do the same again on the other end. So all the way through. And that's it. Now we're ready to add the pages. I just wanted to show you before we stick the pages in just how to cut your frames out, just in case you're not familiar with how to do it on your paper trimmer. So there are 2 pages that are a double-sided frame with acetate on them, and they're both cut in the same way. So you cut your 2 pieces with a tab at I think it's 6.5 by 7.5, and you're scoring 1/2 inch in from one long edge, not 1/2 inch in from the short edge. And then it says cut the frames out of the centre. And then you've got 2 pieces that are your 6 inches by 7.5, and you need to cut the frames out of the centre on those as well. And to do that, you need a paper trimmer rather than a guillotine, and you put your card in at 7/8 of an inch on the measure here, and then take your cutting blade and starting 7/8 of an inch or 1 inch in from the edge, you just cut, not to the edges, but just to that inner mark. Now you might want to mark it with a pencil before you start, or you might be just happy to cut away. It doesn't matter if your cuts go slightly over where they would cross, because you're going to stick paper onto these frames. So it's 7/8 of an inch in from all of the edges on the pieces without the tabs, and then you can take your scissors, and where you haven't quite cut, you can just trim out. So where your cut lines don't quite meet, let's just trim that one. Or you can go back in with your trimmer and just extend the cut lines. But I'm quite happy to just do it with the scissors. And then you get your frame like that. So you do that on both pieces without the tabs. The pieces with the tabs, to do it, you fold the tab under, and then you're measuring in from the fold, your 7/8 of an inch. And that gives you those 2 pages, and then, or 2 sections of the page. And then you need to take one with a tab, and one of the pieces without the tab, and you're going to stick them together, leaving the left edge, or the edge opposite the tab, without any glue. Does that make sense? No, probably not. I'll show you. So I'm taking the piece with the tab, I've got the tab to the right, and I'm going to put glue. You could use double-sided tape if you want to, but I'm just going to use the glue. And I'm going to go along the top along just inside the fold where the tab is, and then along the bottom. So just those 3 edges. And then I'm just going to smear it to flatten the glue out. And then I'm taking the other frame with no tab, sitting it up against the tab, or that crease, lining up the edges and sticking it in place. And then just turn it over and just jiggle it, make sure that you've got your top and bottom edges nice and straight. And that is your frame page finished. And then the acetate gets stuck onto the outside of that finished page, so that when you slide your photo mat into it, there's nothing to catch the photo mat as it slides in and out of the page. So you want 2 of those. For the 2 frames that sit inside the front and back covers, you take your large piece of card cut at 10 inches by 7, fold the short edges together, and then just working on one side in your paper trimmer, you cut out a frame at 7/8 of an inch from all of the edges. So it's easy on the 3, I was going to say 2, but easy on the 3, not so easy when you get to this one. So what I did was pop it through my paper trimmer like that, and then just position the fold, which is quite tricky, just up against the marker, and then cut. And then finish it off, the last short edge. You could always do it with a craft knife and a cutting mat, and then your centre just pops out. So you do that for both of them, and then take your tacky glue and you just want to stick that top and bottom edge. Come on, glue. So you don't need a lot of glue, or you could do this with double-sided tape if you want to. And then just fold it over and hold it down. Stick those top and bottom edges together, and that gives you your photo frame. And then the acetate goes onto the outside before you put your paper strips on. So those are the photo frames. So now we're ready to add all of the pages onto the spine mount. So they go on in pairs, and they go on and hook over the spine mount. So all will become clear. So we're going to put pages 1 and 10 on. That's the first one and the last one. So what you want to do is have your spine mount flat in front of you and put glue on. I'm putting it on the inside, like that. Let's just stand the glue up. And then I'm just going to smear the glue and flatten it all the way down that spine mount. And then I'm taking page number 1, and it's got this tab on. So I'm going to hook that tab over the spine mount, lining up the top and bottom edge. And then if you fold it, you can pinch the page down over the spine mount. Press it down nice and flat. And then it doesn't matter which way it creases, you can crease it the opposite way once it's in place, but it sits on that 1/2 inch spine mount. so you get that shape. So that one goes to the front, and the back one, we're going to flip all of those spine mounts towards the front, apart from the last one. Take our glue and put it onto the inside of the spine mount. Whoops. I'm doing this right-handed, so it's not my best hand. Trying to be ambidextrous. Smooth down your glue. I think I might have put too much on there. Just wipe it off my fingers. And then you're going to hook this tab over the spine mount. Line up the top and bottom edges of the page. And when you're happy that they're sitting together nicely, you can flatten it down completely if you want to. Press down and then lift it, fold it to the back and crease it over the spine mount. So you've got that. 2 pages on, they've each got a 1/2 inch at the inner edge. Excuse my number 10, it got a bit smeared. And then we're going to do the same with pages 2 and 9. So go back to the front of your set of tabs, fold tab number 2 towards the left, take your glue, put it all the way down that tab, smear it down, take page number 2. It doesn't matter which way it creases because you can always crease it the other way once it's on. And you're going to hook it over the spine mount. So it's going to go over like that, she says. Lining up top and bottom edges, press them together. When you're pressing them together, just make sure that the page is sitting straight in between the one underneath it. Like that. And then we're going to do the same on spine mount number 9. So fold all of the spine mounts to the front, glue on this side of the spine mount. You don't need too much. And then take your page with that folded tab, and I'm just going to turn it this way, it's easier. Just position it over the tab on the spine mount so it sits just outside the fold line. Press down, and then if you fold that back page backwards, you can pinch this together. And then those 2 pages are in. So now you've got these 2 and then the next 2, and they're all sitting on a little 1/2 inch raised spine mount. And then we're going to go back to pages 3 and 8 and do exactly the same. So this is my page number 3. I've got my little spine mount here. Spine mount to the front. Position the page level with the top of the spine and the bottom so that the edge of the 1/2 inch tab is just to the left of the crease on that spine mount. Press it down, and then you can just sort of press it backwards to press it together. So that's another raised. And the reason we're doing this is so that all of the pages sit really nicely in the album. They've all got a little extra lift. So then we're going to go to page 8. Like that. Bring page 8 in. And stick it over the tab just to the right of the crease where the tab joins the base of the spine section. Press it down, and then you can just lift it forwards and press it down again. Let's put those on. And then we come to the framed pages. So they go on exactly the same way. Got the tab, and they're going to go onto the next spine mount. So go back to the front, fold the next tab forwards, glue on the back, take your page, line the top and bottom edges up with the top and bottom edge of the spine mount, up here and down here. Sit it down over the tab so that the edge of the page is sitting just to the left of the crease where the spine mount joins the base. Stick it down, flip it the other way and crease it. Then go to the back, fold the 2 centre spine mounts to the left, glue on the back spine mount, take your page, line the tab up, the 1/2 inch tab, with the top and bottom edges of the spine mount, and this time you're going slightly to the right of the crease. Press down, lift up, fold it over and press it down again. And then you have got 2 left to put in. So your book is starting to look like a proper book, and the pages have all got a 1/2 inch tab on either, on each side, each of the opposites. And it just sits lovely. It sits really nice and flat. So the centre ones we're going to put on in exactly the same way, but these pages are split. They're only split up to the crease line, and they are the same depth as the pages, the frame pages. So again, we're going to push the tabs to the back of the book and put glue on the front of that one. Bring one of your split pages in. Now if you've done that, put glue on the front, then you want to fold the tab down and butt it up against that tab. I should have put the glue on the back really, but that's okay. It will still go in like that. And then I'm just going to fold it backwards and press down. Or fold it forwards and press down rather. To stick it into place. So I've got a nice stick. And then I'm going to flip it backwards and press it. Now on this back tab we'll do it properly, and we'll put glue on the left side. So tab facing the back of the book, glue on the top, and then we're going to hook the tab on the page over this one, so that lining up top and bottom edges, and then press it down with the tab just to the right of the crease line. And then when it's in place, just lift it forwards and press it the other way just to stick it firmly down. And that is it. That is all of the pages in your album all ready to decorate. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to show you, is how to put the tabs onto the sides of the pages before you decorate them. To add the tabs to your pages, you take 2 tabs and put a little bit of glue on one side of one and stick them together in a pair, just straightening up all of the edges. And that gives you a nice thicker tab that won't rip. And then you take your tape, let's just get some tape. And off your roll, just cut a piece off, and you want it to be as long as the tab. I'm just going to trim mine down a little bit. And then I'm going to cut it in half. And on page 2 of your instructions, it gives you a guide on how far down on each page to stick the tabs. You can stick them wherever you like. I just did measure them once I'd done it, but my sticking them down was quite random. And then you want to stick your tape onto the tab so that the corner or the ends are sitting on the rounded section. So it's half on, half off. And then you take your page edge, and you might want to do it upside down. You stick the tab in place right up against the edge of the page, and then take the other half of the tape piece and stick it over the top. And if you feel those corners are going to stick out, just trim them back a little bit. And then when you decorate your page, you put your page onto your paper onto the page, and then use the negative of the tab that you've got in your kit and choose what paper you want from your leftovers on the tab, and then using a pencil just draw around the negative space and using a small pair of scissors cut out inside that pencil line. Let's just go around, and that will give you a nice black edge on your tab. So let's just whiz around. And then I'm just going to round that corner. You ink the edge. I use a distress pen to ink my edges. So if you're going to do that, or any inking, if you don't want ink on the right side of your paper, just hold the tab towards you, wrong side facing you, take your pen around the edge to get rid of that white core, and then you're ready to stick it in place on your tab. And you just cut your tabs to suit, your paper pieces for your tabs to suit the pages from the leftover paper that you've got. and then you just sort of build up so you get a nice gap between the paper on the page and the paper on the tab, and a nice black edge on your tab. And do the photo frames the same, so that the photo mats the same, so that all your tabs are covered as you work through the album. Let's bring the album in and I'll show you. Move that one out of the way. And here they are, all decorated, just with the random leftover papers, which is quite nice because you can position and you can get little pictures in to coordinate with your pages if you want, and wording, which is lovely. So adding your finished centre section, which is all of this, to your album, you want to take your finished section. We'll pretend that mine is all decorated, and you will have stuck your red paper down onto the inside of the spine. You put glue all over this flat section of your assembled page chunk, it's quite heavy, and then you centre it over the spine and stick it down. And when you've got it in place, just open up the pages and press down in between each one, just to make sure that the whole thing is stuck really firmly. It's quite important to, you can use tape on here if you want to, but put a little bit of glue on the tape just in case you need to reposition the assembled page section while you're putting it in place. And if you're gluing, you need to make sure that your glue is right up at the edges. So just smooth it out like we did when we put the pages into the album. And that's it. And just make sure that you've got it the right way when you stick it down. So page 1, or the little number, which is number 2 on here, is next to the number 1. It's really easy to get it in upside down. And that is it. That is your album then assembled and ready to fill up with all of your pictures and memories from the 1st to the 25th of December.